Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I've never stayed in an Airbnb. I've also never rented out my place as an Airbnb. It's just never something I thought I should do. However, I've heard all kinds of stories from people who have done both, and they've had great experiences. And I've also seen stories where things didn't work out so well. But here's a crazy story involving a cat. Guy stays at an Airbnb and decides to take the cat that lives in the neighborhood that's owned by somebody in the neighborhood. Nubbins is the name of the cat, and I like it when they give the name of the cat or dog in the story. I hate talking about animals without knowing their names. So Nubbins the cat is the star of this story, at least the focal point of the story. And Airbnb guests allegedly stole Nubbins the cat after staying at a rental in Sonoma. Story is widely reported and partially resolved, and we'll get to that in a second. Tom Vicar and KTVU staff published the story out of Sonoma. A Sonoma County man said he has been fighting for months to get his cat back from an Airbnb guest who allegedly stole the cat while renting a property near his home. So this guy who owned the cat was not renting out the home. Okay? It was a home nearby, and his cat wanders the neighborhood. The story is not that simple, though, as the dispute has opened up a tangled web of accusations and counterclaims in the neighborhood. Troy Farrell, who lives a few doors down from an Airbnb rental, said that the man who rented the Airbnb is a 72-year-old lawyer from Southern California, took Nubbins when he checked out of the Airbnb. Legally, she is my cat, and they were informed of that when they took her to the vet in Long Beach. And the vet in Long Beach said, "That's not your cat, it's Troy's cat." The vet recognized the cat, and the cat is chipped. And the chip identifies Troy as the owner of the cat, to the extent you can own a cat. Farrell said Nubbins wanders around the neighborhood going from house to house. He said he has proof from Valley of the Moon Veterinary that he has paid for the cat's care for years. Meanwhile, the attorney said he took Nubbins after the owner of the Airbnb encouraged his daughter to take the cat. He said he has no plans to return the cat. So someone said, yeah, you can take the cat. Wasn't the cat's owner. In a continued effort to get the cat back, Farrell called the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office for help. The sheriff contacted the attorney, who allegedly refused to turn the pet over, claiming that no one can establish the cat is property of another. So the attorney is taking a weird position here because ownership can be proven in a variety of ways, and an attorney should know this. The sheriff's office said the attorney accused the complaining parties of mistreating the cat, despite the fact they've never met the man. Meanwhile, the guy who owns the cat says, "I know there are some accusations made about somebody cut off her tail, but she's a bobtail." And he says that they've got other cats related to her who have similar tails. A neighbor, who was one of the last people to see the cat before she disappeared, said the Airbnb owner may have told the vacationers to take the cat in retaliation for having reported him to the city about building permit violations. And that's how it was reported in the Sonoma News. I think, honestly, it was retaliation because the neighbors have been reporting him to Permit and Resource Management about violations of building permits that he doesn't have and constant noise complaints. He knows this cat's been around and is loved and cared for. Farrell allegedly tried to contact the attorney multiple times about Nubbins and the vacationing couple who took her. The lawyer rebuffed his efforts and threatened to file a civil harassment complaint against Farrell if he continued, according to Sonoma News. And that's just shameful. You steal a man's cat. When he asks for the cat back, you threaten to sue him. And yes, he's an attorney. And I, on behalf of all attorneys in North America, apologize for what this attorney's done. Okay? It's not right. There are a lot of people who are heartbroken, including me, said Farrell. She's simply part of our family. Now, this is the first story that appeared about the cat. There are more stories, and I read those too, including a story that came down yesterday. And a judge has ruled that Nubbins the cat has got to be given back to her owner, who is Mr. Farrell, Troy, the guy who said the cat is his. The guy whose identification popped up when you read the chip in the cat. Because upon taking her to the vet, once they returned home, Wakefield discovered that Nubbins had been microchipped by the Farrell family before they got her neutered so that she wouldn't have any more neighborhood kittens. But she's been chipped, microchipped. And the attorney discovered that. The attorney discovered she was chipped when the attorney took her to the vet. So the vet has told the attorney this cat is owned by someone named Troy Farrell. Does that name ring a bell? Troy Farrell. And the attorney kept making noise and telling people in the press. And this story actually made it to other countries. I read about it in The Sun over there in England. Apparently it popped up in Australia and New Zealand. And in all the headlines, Nubbins the cat. People are fighting over Nubbins. And the thing about this is, when I was growing up, one of my earliest memories, and I'm talking about, if you said, Steve, can you think back to the first memories you have? Go back the far end of the timeline. What things do you remember? One of the earliest memories I have as a child is driving home from someplace with a little box that had a kitten in it. And I remember the kitten sticking his paw up and doing this, and me playing with the kitten on the edge of this box as we drove home. We had just gotten a cat. We named the cat Tommy. Yes, he's a tomcat. And he was so named because that was our imagination at the time. Plus, when you have a committee do something, I got 5 brothers and 2 parents, so there's 8 of us. That's the best thing we could come up with on short notice, Tommy. So Tommy was our cat. He lived with us at 2 different locations, 2 different cities. And he was a part of my childhood and my entire young life. He made it till I was 20 years old. 20 years old. And he passed away after spending 16 years with us. And I am going to tell you that he was an outdoor cat. We let him outside. And we had a fairly large yard, and he would spend most of the time in our yard. But occasionally he'd wander to the neighbor's yard. Neighbors knew he was our cat. We had other neighbors who had cats, whose cats would wander into our yard. And I can even remember the names of the cats on the street, because most of my neighbors had cats. A couple of them had dogs, but most of them had cats. And so I remember Haystack and Margot, the cats that lived over on this side of us. And then Tommy. And also, we would go to the Upper Peninsula to visit my grandmother. My grandmother lived down in the dirt road that came off a minor road that went out to a major road. But, there was no houses for miles. And when we got up there, we'd let Tommy run around outside. He'd come in at night, and he loved running around the woods just as much as we did. And I remember being in the Upper Peninsula. This is near Baraga, Alston area, Nisula, and going fishing with my brother. Just think about like Norman Rockwell or Huck Finn, 2 young boys walking through the woods. We knew how to get to the creek by walking through the woods. We're walking through the woods one direction, and we see the ferns ahead of us moving. There's something coming towards us. It's Tommy. Tommy goes by, hey guys. He goes by this way, we go that way. What he was doing out in the woods, I don't know. Okay, looking for porcupines, I don't know. End of the trip, we'd call him, he'd come over, run his jump in his cat carrier, get in the car, and drive home with us. And so the cat was a part of our family. The cat was an outdoor cat. Now, as I've gotten older and I've owned dogs, I would never have an outdoor cat, simply because things happen to them. And there are several cats in my neighborhood that are outdoor cats. And I know they're around because I see them. They cut through my yard all the time. I don't mind that at all. I'm not complaining about cats in my yard. I'm not. One of them got hit by a car 2 weeks ago, about 100 yards down the road from my place. And I recognized the cat. I was riding my bike, mountain biking one day, go to the end of my driveway, hang a right, 100 yards. There's the cat. I recognize the cat. It's a cat I've seen in my yard many, many times. And so that's why I would never do that myself. But knowing that a lot of people do this, someone should know that if a cat shows up, because some cats are attention whores. They will, if they think you're going to pay attention to them, they'll show up. And by the way, cats will act hungry. The same way dogs will act hungry. So a cat, if you've got food and are giving it attention, some cats are all over you until you run out of food and then you go on down next door, So the idea that a guy says, I was renting in an AirBNB and a cat walks up to the back door and I'm petting it, seems like a nice cat. And I talk to a neighbor and I say, can I have this cat? And the neighbor goes, sure, you can have the cat. Without asking, do you know who owns the cat? Is the cat owned by somebody? Because it became pretty clear pretty quickly to this guy that cat was owned by somebody. And the chip should have identified it, and he should have realized this is a lost cause. So what happened was a lawsuit was filed, and a judge was asked as a preliminary question, bring the cat back and give the cat back to the original owner. And the judge, and I've talked about this before, preliminary injunctions, they can often issue a preliminary ruling based on several factors, including who's most likely going to win. And a judge a couple days ago said, I believe most likely the cat's going to wind up with the people who had it microchipped. Therefore, attorney, give the cat back. And the attorney apparently said, fine, I'll give the cat back. So the cat, Nubbins, is now back with her owner. And it's a weird case. I suspect that he'll get to keep the cat, and that'll be the way things go. I'm embarrassed on behalf of the attorney who did this. I really am. And again, I apologize. I don't know the guy, but what he did was wrong. But there you go. It's a happy ending to a cat story where the cat is named Nubbins, and Nubbins is now famous. So Airbnb guests allegedly stole Nubbins the cat after staying at Sonoma Rental. Tom Vicar, KTVU, published it. Vincent sent it to me. Thanks a lot, Vincent. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Expect the best, plan for the worst, and prepare to be surprised.